Well, today is July 11th. Just 2 days coming off. As you know, I'm still buzzing over Natsupoi's betrayal to DDM and joining my favorite unit, the Cosmic Angels. But there's more to this, and not to mention, I'm excited to do the discussion video about this and, of course, the podcast with it. But right now, we got some bigger fish to fry in this particular episode. We're going to review it. Well, I should say we're going to have three reviews. The first one's going to be AEW Dark Elevation with 6 matches. And then, of course, we got Game Changer Wrestling with a very unique setting called Settlement Series Part 1 that took place on the 10th. And, of course, we have Wrestling Revolver Cage of Horrors that took place on the 9th. And we got some interesting, exciting news in the world of pro wrestling. One of them involves, of course, more info on Jungle Kyona on her U.S. tour. So, let's get ready for another episode of Deleted Wrestle Zone.
Are you ready? Get up, get up! 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 Get up, get up!
Welcome everybody to the Deleted Wrestle Zone, all things that is pro wrestling with AEW, NXT, New Japan Pro Wrestling, Impact Wrestling, the National Wrestling Alliance, various promotions, wrestlers, matches, and championships. I am your host, Gerard here. So, as I said before, today is July 11th. So let's begin with AEW Dark Elevation. Our first match, we have, of course, Emi Sakura, who just recently came back from Japan, doing a couple of shows with Choco Pro. Faces off against Paris Von Dale. Now, you know Emi Sakura with her attitude. She doesn't shake hands or kiss ass to nobody but herself. And of course, she made a really good number onto um, Paris Von Dale when she applied like a sort of a spinning backbreaker onto her. And 1, 2, 3, good night, Paris. It's over, so welcome back to the Queen. Next up, we got a very interesting dynamic of match. We have JD Drake taking on top flight youngster, very sensational Dante Martin. Now, some of you can say, okay, this is going to be a very interesting match because, yes, it is interesting. You got, of course, JD Drake, who's a blue collar brawler, and you got a guy like Dante Martin, who is a high flyer. So you know there's going to be some interesting. So it's going to be the power of strength versus speed. So basically, the speed did prevail when he applied the nosedive onto JD Drake, giving him 1, 2, 3, adios JD Drake. Next up, we got the very dark and representing of the House of Black, Julia Hart taking on JC. Now, Julia Hart has a brand new gear and seems that she developed a new attitude. She is doing things that only people in the dark can do, such as try to choke the living hell out of your opponent. That's what she was doing until she finally put JC in a very interesting submission that forced JC to tap out, but she refuses to, but she had no other choice. So this could possibly make Malachi Black proud. Next up, we got All Ego Ethan Page taking on Colin Delaney. You know, with this kind of match, we know that Ethan Page would win. He pulled off the Razor's at the Ego's edge in order to pick up the victory. 1, 2, 3. Good night, Colin Delaney. Next up, we got the Queen Slayer, Anna Jay taking on Shauna Reed. If you guys remember Shauna Reed, she is one of Dusty Rhodes' students, and she is the current Rhodes Wrestling Academy Women's Champion. So I thought this match was pretty good until Anna Jay applied the Queen Slayer chokehold, and it was over right there when she tapped out. Now, our main event, we have, of course, the factory consistent of Aaron Solo, QT Marshall, along with Nick Camarado to take on the Best Friends. Now, this is a very interesting match. As you know, the Best Friends, they've been back together for quite some time now, but the factor, they're trying to prove the dominance, and that kind of sits in. However, Nick Camarado was a factor in order to ensure they win, but however, I think it was QT Marshall that suffered the fate after losing this match to the Best Friends. So, Best Friends picked up the W. So I think that's pretty much it what we got with Dark Elevation. I believe it's time to move on with our next review, and that is, of course, Game Changer Wrestling Settlement Series Part 1. Okay, so we got GCW Settlements Series Part 1. This took place on the 10th of July. Now, this is before they did the JCW Great American Birthday Match. Now, our opening match is Nick Wayne versus Dylan McKay. As a fast-paced match, it was a great, but of course, we cannot forget they started doing the actual birthday of Nick Wayne. But Nick Wayne picked up the victory with a cloud cutter. 1, 2, 3. It was over. And the celebration continues for Nick Wayne since it was his birthday. Next match, we have, of course, Austin Luke versus Big Finn. This match was very kind of like short because Big Finn is a big guy and he picked up a huge victory on this one with Austin Luke. Now, this is what happened in the start. Before the start of it, we introduced Effie, who was the judge, and he makes the final call to find out what the hell is this crap been going around between wrestlers. Our next match was Ellis Taylor versus Charlie Tiger. Now, Ellis Taylor accused that the reason that Young, Dumb, and Broke are losing was because of Charlie Tiger. But Charlie Tiger's countersuit was the fact that, Ellis always leaves them up to dry, and the reason they're losing. So they had to do this by trial by combat. So this one is more like, okay, how this is gonna go in. So unfortunately, Ellis Taylor won, and Ellis Taylor won, but Charlie Taylor has to do something about it, to fix things. Now, our next match we have Too Hot Stevens versus Brandon Kirk. Now, this is a very interesting match. It turns out that, Brandon Kirk did some stupid things to Hot Steve and all this and that, and he had to go to the same ordeal, trial by combat. I couldn't stop laughing with Effie wearing that damn wig. I thought it was so hilarious. But in the end, it was Hot Steve that picked up a good victory. And of course, we had our second judge. This is part of the Boosie Supreme judges or whatever. And their next opponent is Alec Price versus Marcus Mathers. Now, Alex Price, he's suing Marcus Mathers because he thinks that he stole his idea, his gimmick, that everything is like that. So basically, Marcus Mathers said, I just thought I was going to wrestle and all that. So he was kind of like avoiding the real problem. But however, Alex Price was determined to win the case at any means necessary. But unfortunately, he did win the case, but not in the way he wanted. Basically, he wanted money out of it, but not the amount that he wanted. But yeah. Now, our next match, we have Axton Raymond versus Ezreal Smith. Now, originally it's Ezreal, but the reason this happened is because Axton Raymond accuses Ezreal for stealing his sandwich that was made by his grandma, a special type of sandwich. Now, Smith's real intentions why he did it is because he thought that he needs to lose weight. But however, Judge Effie says, oh, don't worry about him. He is fine. And Ray's like, being all blushy and all that stuff. So it ended up with a trial by combat, all this and that. But it was Axton Raymond that picked up 8th victory. But however, he has to find a better sandwich, much better than Grandma Raymond's sandwich. So I thought it was a very fun match. Now this one is my favorite one. We have Janai Kai versus Akira Jones. Yeah, guys, you heard me right. Akira has to have a last name, so he chose Jones. But anyway, Janai Kai's lawsuit is that she accuses Akira Jones that he is not a real samurai. And of course, Effie put it on record that she has a black belt. Of course, Akira had a way to prove it, but he didn't have his paperwork or the attorneys, so he chose his trial by combat. Now, Judge Effie was like, "Are you sure you want to do this?" Yeah. So basically, he has no other choice, so it ended up that way. But at some point near the end, the lawyer shows up. Janai Kai got distracted, but it gave Akira Jones to pick up a good win on the victory when he pinned her. So it was so nuts. Now our next match. This was a very strange match. We have Grimace Reefer versus Declan Grant. They're being judged over bringing in cannabis. And they decided to do like how many counts can they do? The best out of 7 series. Reefer got 2, and then of course Grant got 2, but later Reefer got a third one, and then he got the 4. So you have to have 4 wins, and then that's it. So I was like, wow, that's pretty crazy. Now our main event, we have Yoya Gibson versus Charles Mason. Yoya is suing Mason because he tried to kill him with his car and that sort of thing. So that kind of goes in, but Charles Mason, you know how he is, try to overrule the judge, try to be, I don't give a shit, that sort of thing. But it kind of plays out, but Yoya was able to win the match by pinning Charles Mason. And of course, Charles Mason, you know how he is, he's livid. So I thought this event was pretty good. I can't wait to see part two when it comes out. So hopefully that's it. But let's move on to our last final review, which is, I believe, the Wrestling Revolver Cage of Horrors. Okay, our last review is going to be Wrestling Revolver Cage of Horrors. This took place on the 9th. Our opening match, we have the Impact X Division Championship, Speedball Mike Bailey versus one called Manders. Now, this is a very interesting matchup because you would say Manders, he's a big dude, but X Division means no limits. That means anybody could be. Look at Josh Alexander. He was not a high flyer, but he defended that belt proudly. And I think that's what tells us about the whole thing with the X Division. But it was, of course, the spinning roundhouse kick and the ultimate weapon that sealed the deal for Speedball to defeat one called Manders. Now, we get a little video package coming from the current Impact Wrestling World Champion, Josh Alexander. He is issuing an open challenge against anybody in Revolver for Tales of the Crypt. Now, Gail Kim comes out. As you know, she is a highly influenced person in Impact Wrestling, introduces Jessica Havoc, who we all know is a member of the roster in Impact, being challenged by Ali Catch, being represented by JT Dunn. This match was pretty good, but however, JT Dunn decided to pull the ref right when Havoc had the match won. But however, JT Dunn got his ass whooped by Gail Kim. But however, the ref didn't see what was going on. Ali Catch used a glass bottle into the face or head of Havoc to allow her to win the match. Now, our next match, we have a 4-way: Crash Jackson versus Gringo Loco versus Graveheart, Blake Christian versus Zachary Wentz, who made his return to Revolver. I thought it was pretty good. It was a pretty good match, a lot of great moments, but it was, of course, Blake Christian that walked out as the victor. In this one, the Graveheart made a huge statement. Now, our next match is for the Pro Wrestling Revolver tag teams. We have OGK, Mike Bennett and Matt Taven, taking on the Prisoners of Society, Steve Macklin and Weston Blake. This match was pretty good. It was awesome, but however, Mike Bennett gave the low blow that gave the opportunity for the OGK to pick up a huge win. Now, our next match, we have a bunkhouse brawl between Mance Warner and Jake Christ. This match was so brutal. All types of toys were used in this particular tables, ladders, doors, however you want to call it. But he gave them the opportunity. He gave, of course, what's his name? Jake Christ picked up a huge victory onto Mance Warner. It was like a very surprising move. Now, our next match, we have Dan the Dad versus Jake Manning. Now, this match was supposed to take place a while back, but it was interrupted by Infrared, and now they get to do it. I thought this match was great and funny, but apparently there was a confusion over who picked up the victory. It would turn out it went straight to what's his name, to Dan the Dad, but all of a sudden, they're both Manning and Dan the Dad were attacked by Damian Chambers, who had enough of this whole thing that no one is there to see them. He even disrespected Shanti, but Shanti and, of course, Dan the Dad and Jake Manning taught him a huge lesson, so he paid the price. Now, Ruby Soho was supposed to be in this match, but she made it clear she couldn't wrestle because of what happened with Tay Conti. But Billy Starks did not want to back down from the fight, despite of anything. She even pressed her buttons and all that, and she got what she wanted. But Ruby Soho did pulled off the Destination Unknown in order to pick up a huge win. Now, our next match, we have the Wolves between Davey Richards and what's his name? Oh, yeah. Eddie Edwards to take on the Switchblades, Sami Callihan and Jon Moxley. It was amazing. All pure violence, all mayhem, all this other stuff, and it did allow for Jon Moxley and Sami Callihan to pick up an amazing win. I mean, seeing those two, from my understanding, they haven't been together for almost 10 years. I'm learning something new almost every day. Now, our main event, the Cage of Horrors 6-man tag match. We have the unit consistent of JT Dunn, Logan James, and Tyler Matrix, consistent of the Crew, Rick Swan, Matthew Palmer, and Swerve Strickland. The match was insane. There was a lot of blood and beating, but however, things overturned when Swerve turned on Rich Swann. It was still unclear why, but it did give JT Dunn the win to pick up against the Crew, but it was still unclear whether he's working. But however, the G Unit were about to celebrate, but all of a sudden, TikTok! Yes, folks, Killer Cross is coming to Tales of the Crypt. Now, it doesn't take a true genius why he made that appearance. I'm going to assume he's going to take something that belongs to JT Dunn, and that is, of course, the Wrestling Revolver Heavyweight Championship. That is something he wants, and he's going to get it one way or the other. But we'll see what happens, even though the rest of the unit are scared shitless. So, that's what happened. But I think that's pretty much it. Right now, let's end it right here and move on with news updates. Okay, here's our news updates. Earlier, I made a video before I edited the last episode that I put out. Jungle Kyona will be making her, of course, U.S. tour. It was announced that Deadlock Pro Wrestling, or DPW, has announced that they will be having her being booked for 2 events. So one's going to be on the 17th of September in Raleigh, North Carolina. The other will be in November 12th at Concord, North Carolina. So this is something huge. I know many fans out there were hoping last year when she will be returning to Stardom, but now some of you in your general area, if you're big fans of Jungle Kyona, you know where to go. But however, I'm not sure if we will ever see those the any of the events of this. I hope they do, because WatchProWrestling.org put out the ones that they had with Miyu Yamashita and Miyu Mizuki and Hiroya Matsumoto. I'm going to assume that could happen. But however, it just also revealed now that DPW is not the only promotion that it booked Jungle Kyona. There is another one that she was booked by West Coast Pro for the Ride and Lightning event that's going to take place on the 6th of October. I'm excited for that. I'm sure they're going to put that. And of course, finally, Golden State Pro Wrestling has announced that she will be making her appearance there too on the 16th of, of September. So basically, she has to fly from Jersey all the way to North Carolina. As you know, she has back-to-back bookings. Now, for all you Gatoh Move Pro Wrestling fans out there, you should know it's been announced that there's going to be an event by Gatoh Move on July 16th and Itabashi, which is a very small venue, which is where they did their first show, Gatoh Move Returns event back in April, I think. There's going to be the main event is going to be Mei Shiruga versus Chiko Shikawa. Now, keep in mind, this is more of a rivalry between the two of them. This is a long road ahead for them. This is called the road to 10 years. So I'm excited for them to do that. Now, Progress Wrestling, as you know, has been announcing some wrestlers that will be making their appearances, like Masa Takanashi, Konosuke Takeshita. However, four-time GHC Junior Heavyweight Champion Hayata will be making his appearance on the codename of the Deadly Viper Tour, Copperhead. He'll be facing against Dean Allmark, which is exciting. Hopefully, this could be uploaded soon. Now, I did review Wrestling Revolver. It was announced on the 21st of August. We're going to have the event Sunday Fun Day, where we're going to see a dream match. The Rascals, Trey Miguel and Zachary Wentz, teaming up for the first time for a while against the Motor City Machine Guns, Chris Sabin and Alex Shelley. Now, Prestige has announced on their Twitter page, we are going to see a Roseland 4 that's going to take place on Halloween of this year, which is going to be interesting. Now, for all you GCW fans out there, it's been announced that they will be making the return to Japan for a 3-big event taking place between the 27th of September all the way to the 4th of October. So it's a big, kind of short and narrow, but it's still unclear who's going to be there or what's going to be done. But as for the info and talent, is to be announced. Now, for all you Warrior Wrestlers out there, it was announced that Tessa Blanchard will be making her return. I know some of you may have a hard time, but it was already booked for the second night of the Stadium Series on the 20th. She'll be facing against Sky Blue. Now, I found something interesting on Twitter page. AEW star Abadon has announced that she has Utami Hayashishita in her sights, and Utami put like eyes emoji on it, so she's paying attention to what's going on. I wouldn't be surprised if we have the Forbidden Door for the women's roster against Stardom. That would be great. I would like to see Utami facing on Abadon. Now, finally, our last one, we just been told that from Pro Wrestling Insider, Ariya Daivari and Curtis Axel are no longer with WWE. They were relieved from their duties as producers. It was kind of weird, but now we could see them. They could probably go back to wrestling. What they're going to do, we're not sure. But I think that's pretty much it, what we have for our news updates. I believe it's time to call it a day. Well, I hope everybody enjoys this episode. Hope you guys enjoy the news updates that I put out for everybody, especially if you guys are Jungle Kyona fans and everything else that I did. As you know, I mentioned before, I'm going to be doing a discussion video involving the developments recently with Cosmic Angels, one of them in parts of Colors being integrated as a allied force with them, and of course the most surprising news that Supoi turning her back on DDM. So I'll be working on that as soon as possible. But stay tuned either for Wednesday or Thursday. I will be talking about that on Natsupoi this on the upcoming podcast episode and various others. So as you know, for our coming episode, it's going to be Tuesday, where we have AEW Dark, NWA Power, and NXT 2.0. So I haven't considered yet what I'm going to put before it, but I'll put you guys on standby. Hopefully, see how this one's going to turn out. But for now, I'll see you guys in the next DWZ time. Same DWZ channel. I must bid all of you adieu. So, goodbye. Mwah. And have a nice day. Bang.